Electronic Arts was a huge supporter of the Sega Genesis, and in today's video I'm taking a look at the first 2 years of games that they published from 1990 to 91 on the Sega Genesis. I have another ranking video, and a lot of people have been wanting me to cover Electronic Arts. Well, how do I do such a large game company justice? So what I've done is I'm breaking down their huge library into years, and in today's video I'm looking at the first 27 games that they published from 1990 to 91 on the Sega Genesis, and I'm having a lot of fun doing these. If you want to rank it yourself, there will be a link below, as well as a link to my other ranking videos. I've done over 30 of them, and this has been a great pleasure of mine to share with you these wonderful games. So, you may have your favorites. Sit back and relax. Here we go. EA ported a lot of Amiga and classic computer games to the Sega Genesis, and this is one of the better ones. This is Battle Squadron. I really like this top-down vertical shooter, and this is one of the early releases in the cardboard boxes. It's kind of hard to find in good condition. It's also got a 2-player mode and branching paths. This is a B for me. Another early cardboard release from EA for the Genesis, and this is Blockout, and the comparisons to kind of like a 3D Tetris clone are here. It does have some 2-player options. There's many different combinations you can do. I found this perspective to be a little confusing. I prefer classics such as Columns over this, but if you're looking for a new puzzle game, check this one out. While a little dated, this is an amazing tactical RPG. Buck Rogers' Countdown to Doomsday is a solid experience on the Sega Genesis. If you're a fan of Buck Rogers, multiple races, professions, and skills that you can customize in this game. There's simply a ton of game here with many hours of gameplay and strategy. Highly recommend it. It's a total A for me. Budokan was ported to several platforms, and this is the Sega Genesis version. And if you're into more traditional fighters, there's a lot to enjoy and experience here. I, for one, kind of grew up later with more modern fighters, so it was kind of difficult for me to go back to this one. It's just a C for me, but if you're more of a purist of traditional fighters, you may like this one more. A meaty strategy game for the Genesis, Centurion Defender of Rome has lots of content. Now, I like this one more than some. It is a little rough around the edges, but I did love the chariot races. It's got some cool animations, as well as a multitude of battles that you can do, naval and on foot. I think this game has a lot of charm and will have its fans. It's a B. Oh boy, Dark Castle. This game is truly terrible, and I know it was ported to several things, and the Genesis one is just not good. It's just terrible controls. It's too hard to maneuver and aim to hit enemies. Hit detection is truly awful. It's just not a fun experience. You know, I'm all about puzzle and adventure games, but this is a truly terrible experience. Total F. Flight games were all the buzz of the 90s, and this is F22 Interceptor, and there's a lot of content in this game. If you're a fan of these types of games, you may like this more. I like more arcade action style games, but this one was a little bit easier to get into. I thought the graphics are very dated, but if you're into these classic flight games, you're going to enjoy this one. This is a C. After 7, here's the rankings. Fatal Rewind, also known as the Killing Game Show on Amiga and Atari ST. This is a kind of a cool side-scroller. It is very difficult. I'm terrible at this game, but what I've played so far I really enjoyed. And this is a game that I definitely would go back to. I like what they did here. It is rather difficult, but if you're up for the challenge, this is a B for me. James Pond is a cute platformer that might be better suited for children. I thought this was okay. I think the whole series is underrated, and it was nice to go back and play the original. I don't think it's a bad platformer, and it's a C for me. James Pond 2 improves upon the original, and I like this one more. There's some different gameplay mechanics. You're actually above ground now, not in the sea, and I like what they've done here with this game. It's got kind of a Christmas theme. You're in the North Pole. This is a B for me. I ranked the Madden Football games in a previous video, but here's what I said about the two first releases on the Sega Genesis. Fairly limited to today's standards. It only had 17 teams. So even though it was lacking some features, and it hasn't aged as well as some of the others, it has that arcade feel. And I'm going to give this a B. Next up is one of my all-time favorite football games, and that is John Madden 92. And this took the arcade gameplay of the first one, which was good, and made it a lot better with all 28 teams of the time. I love this game. I played this quite a bit back in the day. I still think it holds up. This is an S. There'll be a link in the description if you want to watch this entire video. King's Bounty is an absolute classic on the Sega Genesis, the precursor to Heroes of Might and Magic. I highly recommend going back and playing this game. It's a wonderful blend of action and strategy. As you're going around a kingdom, you're hiring troops, you're taking out enemies, you're discovering new areas. I absolutely love this game. Tons of strategy here and battles. And this is one of the best games on the Sega Genesis. A total S for me. Of EA's early sports releases on the Genesis, this is probably my least favorite. And it's not a bad game. I just think that there's other games on the Sega Genesis that are better basketball games. This one's a little dated, and I'm a huge fan of this era of basketball players. Going back and revisiting this is just average for me. And here's the ranking of the first 14 so far. Here in the States, we got the inferior version of Marble Madness. Tengen actually made their own version, which is better than this. And I like this. I don't like it as much as the Nintendo Entertainment System version. There's nothing wrong with this game. It's just overall just kind of average. The appeal of this version in particular is lacking for me. It's a C. Might and Magic Gates to Another World has a ton of content if you're looking for more of a traditional RPG. There is a lot to like here. Now, the graphics aren't going to blow you away, but there's over 250 types of weapons, 96 magic spells, and a guaranteed over 100 hours of adventuring. There is a lot to like here in this game. Battery backup. This is an A. Highly recommend it. It was fun to go back to the original NHL Hockey and to see how well it stood up. I really enjoy this. This is probably my second favorite sports franchise that EA did, especially their early titles, right behind Madden. Now, this one's a little slow, but it does have 22 hockey teams, 2 all-star teams. I thought there was a lot in this game to like. Now, I prefer some other NHL versions over this, but this is a B. PGA Tour Golf set a standard on the Sega Genesis for golf games that many other games tried to compete with. Is this my favorite of them? No, but it's solid. There's lots to like here, including the gameplay, real players and stats with battery backup. This is a B. Another solid computer port was Populous. Now, this is a game I rented quite a bit back in the day. I really enjoyed playing this game. There's so much content in this computer classic, and I think it does a decent job of taking the gameplay from the computer and porting it over to the Genesis. Now, that control's a little clunky without a mouse, but I did enjoy playing this one. This is a B. Rings of Power was Naughty Dog's first console game, and this was specifically published by EA for the Sega Genesis, and this is a mixed bag for me. I think there's a lot of good ideas in this game that are poorly executed. There's tons of traveling and different creatures and spells and items and lands, but I could never get into this game. This is a C for me. Another timeless classic that EA published was Road Rash, and this is an absolute blast. If you haven't played this series, it's great to go back to the original release on the Sega Genesis. Now, I have a lot more nostalgia for some other versions of this game, notably for the 3DO and Sega CD, but this is a great game, and a lot of fun racing experience with some non-traditional ways of winning by punching and kicking opponents, avoiding traffic. This is an absolute gem and a solid A for me. Highly recommend going back and playing this. And here's the rankings through the first 21 games. Shadow of the Beast is best played on an Amiga. Plain and simple. I got to experience it as a kid and was just stunned by the artistic design of this game. Is it a perfect game? No. How does the Genesis port fare? It's good. It's a little bit too fast. I do believe there's another version of this game that was offered on the Mega Drive that slows it down, makes some of the hit detection a little bit better. But this is a good version of Shadow of the Beast, and I highly recommend it. It's a B. Starflight started out as an IBM classic, and I'm so glad it got ported over to the Sega Genesis. This is a very, very meaty strategy RPG. You have to manage resources, hire personnel, travel the galaxy, huge map, tons of things to explore. It's impossible to cover everything in this game. An absolute gem, and this is an S. Sword of Sodan was a terrible port from the Amiga, and just play the computer version instead. This doesn't work on a console. Oh boy, I can go off about how bad this game is. Clunky gameplay control, it's hard to turn around. Some people may say, hey, I like this game. I hate this game. I think it's terrible. It's a terrible home console port of the game. Avoid it at all costs. Total F. A turd of a game and one of the worst EA published. The Fairy Tale Adventure was yet another Amiga port to the Genesis, and you know, beside the clunky interface, I think this is a really solid RPG. I just don't think it works the best on the Sega Genesis. The more I played it, though, the more I did enjoy it. But, you know, combat is rather challenging, and there's a ton to explore and enjoy in this game. If you can get past the interface, I think it is a solid RPG and a B for me. I really like this game, and it's very difficult. I never was really great at playing it, but I appreciate going back and playing the Immortal. I think there's a lot here to like in this isometric action puzzle game. It's got some gruesome death scenes as well as some challenging puzzles to figure out. I highly recommend going back and playing the 16-bit classic, and the Genesis port is well done. I think it's got great animation and sound, and look no further than this for a solid experience. This is an A. Rather uncommon original cardboard box game is Zany Golf. I wanted to really like this game more, but it has frustrating controls. I found myself not wanting to go back and play this. After revisiting it, it just, to me, the control kills it for this game. I think since then there's been better miniature golf games made, and this is just average. This is just a C. So here's the final rankings. I want to hear your stories connected to these games. There were several classics that EA published, and I want to hear your stories. Thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned. This is just the first part of me covering Electronic Arts. Next up is the games they published in 1992. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock. Let's keep it positive, and you have a good day.